Here at Kucki Tech, we've been researching and compiling documents looking at whether or not the new iPhone is going to be foldable or not. This is a rumour that's been circulating for at least 5 years now. Back in 2016, we heard hints of this, that Apple was developing a foldable screen technology with LG. This rumour was accentuated in 2017 as well. LG back in 2017 did already have some prototypes for some foldable technology, some foldable OLED screens, which would have been incredible back then especially. Now, in addition to this, recently Samsung has allegedly offered to make some foldable screen technology for Apple, so it seems like things with LG just didn't really happen. But in addition to that, we also understand that Apple is working with the Gorilla Glass manufacturer to develop a solution for foldable screens to give them that strength that we would expect from any iPhone at that price point. Now, our understanding is that Samsung is going to be sending prototypes backwards and forwards to Apple over the next year or so, but LG could also be involved in this whole situation. It is still under wraps. Some people were suggesting that we could be getting a foldable iPhone as soon as September 2020, but it could be much longer than that. And with Apple, it probably will still be a bit longer considering the other mainstream brands haven't done it yet. Apple does tend to be a little bit late to the game. Just for reference, charging speeds with Apple iPhones is still at 15 watts, whereas there's multiple phones selling 120 watt charging speed mobile devices now. The average charging speed for most Android devices is between 35 to 65 watts. So at 15 watts, they are really very slow at charging at the moment. A well-respected Apple analyst that goes by the name of Ming-Chin Kuo, who in the past has had reliable insight into the development of new Apple products, has said that development of a new foldable Apple iPhone has not yet kicked off. However, he has said that Apple could be releasing a 7.5-inch to 8-inch foldable OLED Apple iPhone as soon as 2023. If some issues with the key technology and mass production can be worked out. Now, what do you think of foldable iPhones? Is this something that you're really into, or do you wish that Apple could focus on other features such as fast charging, faster wireless charging? We now have phones with wireless charging speeds at 50 watts, whereas Apple's wired charger is still at 15. So definitely we feel like there's some room for improvement here, and maybe people would gain more from a phone that charges much faster, 20 to 30 minutes for a full battery, as opposed to a phone that folds and gives you more real estate. In our research, we also found a statement from Bloomberg which said that Apple has started the initial research and development of a foldable product, but they have not yet committed to manufacturing in mass production any foldable products for that matter. Apparently, the prototyping process has not gone anything beyond the display, and Apple does not have any prototypes for a foldable iPhone in any of its labs. Now, obviously, the advantage of a foldable iPhone is that you can pack more display into something that also fits into your pocket, but one has to question, do we need larger displays, or can we make the displays that we have already more efficient, right? Because a bigger display means more battery, means thicker phone, means heavier phone. If we can just optimize what we already have, maybe we could make something even better, maybe? What do you think about foldable phones? Personally, I just want the best camera, really fast charging, and something that's durable and waterproof. I don't really think I need foldable. I think the aspect ratio would annoy me going to square. I just don't see it as being that useful for me. But again, lots of people have lots of opinions, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to have a foldable phone. All the content that I consume is either portrait or landscape. None of it is square, so I wouldn't really gain that much from using foldable. Another research document suggests that Apple has been investigating using phone screens in the region of 6.7-inch to 8-inch. The 6.7-inch obviously being the iPhone 12 Pro Max sort of screen size, but that would be a phone that folds portrait, so that's really interesting. Apparently that's something they have looked into. And obviously again with the 8-inch being much bigger. However, from what we do understand, Apple's design for a folding phone has something called an invisible hinge. Maybe it's marketing, or maybe it's just the idea of the hinge being very subdued and not really that shouty. Now, if we take a look at some of the other foldable phones on the market right now today, they do have a very visible hinge, but they're also the pioneers of this technology. They've really taken a risk. They know a lot of people aren't going to buy into it. We all remember the Samsung Galaxy Fold and all the issues that we had with that, with the screen cracking in the middle. So other brands are taking the risk and leaping into it, and Apple is playing it safe. So yes, they might release the polished technology in 3 years, 2 years from now, which would be incredible, but that's not happened without the groundwork being done by other brands first, right? So we are expecting a pretty good finished product by that point. Leaker John Prosser has come out with some alternative designs, and he has said that Apple has been working on a design with 2 separate screens joined by a hinge, and it would just be very similar to the Samsung Fold. So very interesting, completely not in line with Bloomberg's release data statement. So I'm not too sure about this. What do you think? Realistically, I think if Apple does not manage to nail the foldable screen technology, this is definitely probably the next best bet. For example, Apple has been selling products with wireless charging for a long time, but I don't believe they actually offer any native wireless charger. We understand this is because they were originally working on a super powerful wireless charger, but they actually had to ditch the product because they had heat dissipation issues with the charger itself. So again, it's kind of controversial that they never really got into that market, because if they did come out with something at the beginning, they would have some market share. So it does seem like if the foldable screen technology doesn't work out for them and it doesn't turn out to be reliable, at least if this is the case, they would have something to sell alongside everyone else now selling foldable phones, right? Now again, Prosser's statement does not fully align with the other statements that we've had in our rumor research, but what he said is that this foldable iPhone would have a stainless steel edge, very much like the iPhone 11, and even though it is two separate screens, they would be relatively seamless with not much of a gap between them. So it would kind of emulate a foldable phone, a folded phone, without actually having the negative connotation associated with the screen having to bend backwards and forwards hundreds, thousands of times in its lifetime. Apparently Face ID would no longer be in a notch, it would just be a very small forehead. Very interesting. And he believes that Apple will be testing many prototypes at the moment, but we don't know if any of them are going to go to production. So very, very different to the other leaks that we've had so far. Now, research from Omdia suggests that Apple is going to be releasing an iPhone with a foldable screen between the size of 7.3 inches to 7.6 inches that will also support the Apple Pen. So I guess you can kind of use it as a tablet, which is very, very cool. They believe this could be happening as soon as 2023. Now that we do have two sources mentioning that golden date 2023, I mean, I'm still living in 2019 because of COVID, but 2023, I guess, is not really that long away, right? I mean, it's only 2 years, so that's kind of crazy. Definitely not something worth holding out for, but definitely something worth looking forward to. We would expect Apple to release a finished product. We're not expecting something that's sort of like an experiment for the public, very much like the other phone manufacturers have done so far, right? Now, in December 2020, there was a rumor released from the Asian supply chain that said that Apple had moved on with its prototyping process and was pretty much finalized on a design for a foldable iPhone, but this does not align with the other research and leaks that we have so far, so I don't know how accurate that is. But in the past, the Chinese supply chain has been fairly accurate in terms of screen sizes and stuff to do with that, you know, with the casing molds and stuff, so very interesting. Within that rumor, Apple was allegedly testing 2 different designs for a foldable phone in the Foxconn facility in Shenzhen, China. One of them is said to be a dual screen, very much like we heard about earlier with the 2 separate screens with a very narrow bezel, and the other one is said to be more traditional like the other foldable phones that we have at the moment, where the glass actually folds and it's seamless. Now, these test devices have been described as shells with limited internal electronics and not complete functioning phones whatsoever. They are still in the very early stages. I'm sure you'd have to do so much optimization on where the batteries go, the heat dissipation, all those sorts of issues. And again, we just don't know if this is ever going to make it to launch. We will just have to see. Moving on to some more rumours surrounding the foldable iPhone. Apple does tend to patent things that don't actually end up making it into finished products, but they did patent this design that you can see on the screen now. It looks very basic, like very, very basic in terms of what it's actually showing, but this kind of shows the design for a foldable screen. This patent surfaced all the way back in 2016 when really no one was really making foldable phones. This was a phone that opened horizontally using an OLED screen. A further patent was filed in 2019 by Apple to put a heat element underneath the fold section of the screen. Now, the reason for this is the screens that were breaking, Apple believes and other manufacturers believe it's because of the temperature of the screen as it's being open and closed. So if it's constantly kept warm, then surely it should reduce that issue. But obviously the controversial issue with that is that it would use some battery life generating that heat, so that's kind of controversial unless they use like a radioactive isotope or something. Another patent was filed and granted by Apple in February 2020 for a foldable design that used flaps. Now, the idea with this is that you could have 2 separate devices, and when you bring them together, sensors would detect each other and then it would become a single device with a big screen. So I guess it's not strictly foldable, but it is 2 phones that come together and act as one. A Lynch analyst back in 2018 predicted that the foldable iPhone was going to be coming out in 2020, and obviously that has not happened, but that could very well be because of COVID and various different manufacturing, production, research and development delays in the process, right? A November 2020 rumor from the Apple supply chain suggested that the Apple iPhone was going to be bringing in foldable technology as soon as 2022, so getting a bit sooner than 2023. That's only a year away. Here are some examples of what people are hoping to see from the foldable iPhone, just some renders that have been done across the internet. You can see we have some portrait style ones, some landscape style ones, we've got some large screen texting. I don't know if we really need any of this. Like, do you remember, like, all of us now have the capability to send and type messages landscape mode, but I think most people just use portrait because it's more convenient, especially because phones are getting longer now as well. So part of me just has to question, I feel like we've used this format and shape of phones for such a long time. I can imagine us slightly altering the dimensions and the proportions, but I can't really imagine people adapting to like folding them open all the time very frequently. But again, who am I to stand in the way of the future and innovation? Anyway, that is everything for today's foldable phone. I really hope you found it very interesting. If you did, be sure to subscribe to Kucki Tech. We do lots of research into these sorts of things and post videos all through the week. My name is John. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to smash the like button, and I will see you in our next Rumours research video. Thanks for watching. Bye.